Hey guys, Vlad Moldavsky here from MeetAdvisors.com. I'm joined with Zack Johnson, CEO of Syndio. Zack, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I want to get started right away, and I want you to tell our community what is Syndio and what are you guys doing that's revolutionizing people analytics.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I started Syndio about 6.5 years ago, and you're right, we are revolutionizing people analytics, and it's particularly people analytics in large companies. And it's worth starting by saying first what people analytics is. People analytics is how large organizations are measuring their employees and how they work together to become more efficient and more like startups, right? So when you think about why you're on this site and not going to get a job at an IBM or Deloitte or one of those, it's because startups are cool in that they can react really fast to the outside environment, right? A new customer pops up who has a new need, you can get it done. A new competitor pops up, you can out-compete them. Big companies though, they're slow, they have bureaucracy, they're fast. And that's because there's so many people working for them, they don't even know who they have, what they're doing together, et cetera. So what Syndio does is we go in and we measure those employees, and not just employees as individuals, right? Their age, their pay grade, their tenure. We go beyond that. We actually measure their relationships. Who do you trust? Who do you get advice from? Who inspires you? And by getting that information from all the different employees in an organization, we build a network. And when you have that network, we can analyze those relationships and figure out who are the influencers, the change agents, the leaders, the innovators, the folks who really make an organization tick. So we sell software that does this, from data collection to analysis to presentation of results. And what it allows our customers to do is they're buying three things. They're buying agility, they're buying visibility, and they're buying parity. From an agility standpoint, if you know who your go-to people are, your change agents, your leaders, et cetera, you can get things done faster. Makes a large company feel a lot more like a startup. From a visibility standpoint, we can tell you which employees are the folks who you absolutely can't afford to lose. People who, if you fire them by accident or you don't compensate them enough, they're going to massively destroy how communication and work gets done in the organization. And trust me, in every company, it's like 20% of the people do 80% of the work. It's nuts. And the third thing's parity. So it's employees giving praise and rating their peers as opposed to your boss just saying, well, like, Vlad, you seem like a pretty cool dude, but I like your coworker better, so I'm going to give you a low score. It's much more objective in that it's crowdsourced by everybody, so no one person can mess up your scores.
It's interesting. One thing that you said that kind of stuck with me is these large corporations, they have so many freaking people, and it's hard for them to measure who's actually effective because no one's keeping a finger on the pulse. And earlier today, I had one of my associates come up to me and he said, hey, I'm writing an article, for a large publication. He said, why do corporations, need entrepreneurs? And I told him, I said, because entrepreneurs in a lot of cases think agile and are agile. So everything you're saying is kind of really interesting because a subject matter expert is aligning well with, my thoughts and then other people's thoughts here. Walk me through your story. How did you stumble across Syndio? You mentioned that you were at Northwestern, you're just a student, you're working on a communications degree. How did you stumble into people analytics?
Yeah, so I started in rap and hip hop, which is totally different than enterprise software. But what was fun was I was working, and this was in the early days of Facebook, and like not the earliest days, but this was like when Facebook was open to everybody, but there wasn't advertising yet. So it was still like a pretty pure medium, and you could game it a lot more. And we were doing work, I wound up taking a class with a professor at Northwestern and learning about social network analysis. So how do you measure relationships? And I took it because my friend Jordan Looney was like, hey, he was a rapper I was working with. He's like, hey, take this so you can make me famous. And it was really funny. We showed up for class the first day, and I was like Hermione Granger the whole time. I was like, this is awesome. It was one of the first classes I ever really was super compelled to like sit through and listen to in college. And I learned about how you could use science and math and theory to understand community. So we wound up using it with pop and hip hop artists. So we found influencers at different colleges, brought them together and said, all right, 3 Musketeers, all for one for all. If you give me access to your fan base, I'll give you access to everybody else's. That way when we released music, it wasn't just through one person, it was through 10 different influencers at 10 different schools. So we did, wound up doing all of Mike Posner's early music, all of Big Sean's early music, and a few other artists where Their careers, obviously, they did a ton of stuff on their own to earn their spots, but we helped with a little bit of lighting the spark, so to speak, early on to get lots of listeners and people talking about these guys. And what was cool was at the time I was doing research, and I was kind of shocked to find out that large companies weren't using similar things for their customers and weren't using similar things internally. And internally was where we got the most traction. We bootstrapped up a consulting firm where we started just selling to people. So our first customers were Livestrong and Procter & Gamble.
Small guys.
Small guys, yeah, small fry, big bag. And what was cool was they gave us tons of feedback on what were the problems, what do they need, where was the technology. And it's funny, I mean, we were super early to the market then. We're still early now. So it's been slow and steady wins the race, just bootstrapping up a consulting firm and then ultimately building our own software.
So what is, first off, congratulations. That's
not there yet, but thank you.
I mean, that really is a story, though. You stumble across something and you've really, now just made it kind of it went from an experiment in college to a career. Yeah. Right now, you recently got funded. You've seen some growth. You're picking up large contracts. What's next? What is Syndio 5 years from today?
Right now, all of our analytics are within one company. So it ranks every employee from top to bottom on all the metrics. Makes every group from top to bottom. The next thing is absolute scores. What I mean by absolute scores is if your company, you get to 10,000 employees, within a few days of starting with us, I want you to know how you compare to every other company we've ever worked with, right? How siloed are you? Do your employees tend to share access to the organization evenly? What does influence look like? For that point, when we have enough companies doing it, the sell is no longer, hey, do this stuff to change how you manage people and improve what you're doing. It's do this stuff because your competitors are doing it and you want to know how you stack up. That for us is an industry shift. It means people analytics are here to stay, and it also makes it a lot easier for us to get this into more and more companies. And we'll have dominance through data. So that's a huge thing for us over the next couple of years.
So what do you see as some of the challenges to actually get you there?
Yeah, and this goes into just general entrepreneurship challenges, but the first is just selling enterprise. Like my sales cycles are 6 to 8 months. I'm selling to companies that aren't used to having to work with a startup where maybe I only have 6 to 8 months of cash if I'm lucky to keep the company alive, right? So it's 2 different organizations working on 2 very different timelines with 2 very different views of resources. So that's challenge number 1. Challenge number 2 is being ahead of the market. It's not like I go into a company and they have a line item budget for, network analysis, people analytics tools. No, you have to go in and convince them to appropriate funds from something else or to ask their boss or their boss's boss. So we have to be ventriloquists for our customers. Like our favorite people in the world are the people who stick out their neck for us every day to try our stuff because they think it's going to make their company better. And those people are they're unbelievable. And one of our biggest judges of our success is how well our customers do in their organization once they've deployed our work. So we've had a customer who's just made a CIO recently. We've got a customer who got Employee of the Year in a 70,000 person organization. They're rock stars and studs. We want people who, when they stick their neck out for us, we want them to have the best possible results.
So here's my last question to you, and it just came to my mind with your last thought, but you have organizations, they're your customers, and then there's these employees who are shining, who are kicking ass, who are getting promoted for things that they were never really recognized for. I'm an organization, I just bought from Syndio. What is success? How do I measure success as a company? How do I go back to you and tell you, hey, I got my ROI.
Yeah.
You guys are great. I'm recommending you to everyone. So for the employee, he has his win, his metric is he just got promoted.
And the companies.
What's for the company?
So there's several, and it depends on what it's being bought for. So we help a lot with change, we help a lot with talent management, et cetera. Usually the tool pays for itself in a few days by just helping them keep a couple employees from leaving. There's always 1 or 2 employees who are ridiculously valuable, almost impossible to replace, that we figure out are like on the fence about leaving because they're underappreciated. Instantaneous ROI, and we usually find many more than that. Secondly, it's time. So we've helped companies, one company we helped shave about a year off their product to market timeline. It's a massive amount of time when you're talking about, because big companies fighting each other, it's like naval warfare. and you have to be in the right position when the time comes because you can't move fast enough. So we've really helped by shaving like a year off here, 6 months there, a couple months here. So them looking at their average project and product time cycles, we help a lot there as well. So time and then that visibility piece.
It's great. Well, Zach, I very much appreciate your time today. It's been really great, hearing more about Syndio. Before we sign off, one thing I like to ask, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who come and speak with me, what's one piece of advice, you would give to our community based on what you have learned in your 6.5-year journey?
One piece and one piece only. Just be scrappy and tenacious. Every person I know who has built a business, who's built a reputation for getting stuff done, it's because they're literally tireless when it comes to doing it. And you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, you're gonna have days where you feel like you can take on the world, and you're gonna have days where you're like, we feel like we've done nothing so far. But it's the folks who are like, let's pick up the phone to solve a problem as opposed to sitting around and hoping for it to solve itself. Those are the folks who build great businesses. And there's always someone who knows an answer. There's always a way to get more money. There's always a way to figure something out. And the people who don't take no for an answer over a 10-year period, those are the people who wind up building the skylines in cities like this.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thanks a lot for your time. I
My
really
pleasure,
appreciate
man.
it. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.